Maybe some of you are getting ready for vacation. Maybe you're just excited to be at the end of the semester. Whatever you're feeling excited about now, hopefully that music kind of set the pace for you, set the tone, set the mood. Music is a great way to decrease anxiety in our classroom and to rebalance the energy that our students may be feeling. Welcome back, everybody, to Dr. Sellers Educate. We are excited that you are back as we continue to explore the hallmarks of excellence that were identified by NLN several years ago. In Billings and Halstead, you want to pay close attention to chapter 27. Okay, we are still in the 6th edition because this is the one that was mapped to the current exam. So starting on page 515, these are the 3 steps you want to take. You're going to pull out your study worksheet if you haven't already. You're going to write down today's date, whatever date you're watching this snapshot. And then I want you to write down one objective. At the end of our time together today, what is one learning outcome? What is one item from your list related to program evaluation that you want to mark off of your list? And then the final step is to do a reflection or a debrief at the end of our time together today. So again, you're going to look at chapter 27, systematic program evaluation, starting on page 515. There's some information about different evaluation models in box 27.1. I want you to also think about which evaluation model your specific nursing program is using. And then when you take a look at the program evaluation plan on page 517, you're going to see mission and goal evaluation. So go ahead and write down as a next step for you, find your nursing program and your college or university mission and goal statement. And then I want you to take a look at just one course and map how the mission and goals of the institution of the nursing program show up in your course. Okay, there should be some type of connection or correlation. We know that's required based on our accreditation to be aligned. Our curriculum, our program should be aligned with our mission and our goals within our nursing program and, if possible, within our institution. All right, so the second step we want you to take is to pull out your study workbook. Okay, you can find these resources, the link to the crosswalk to the 7th edition of Billings and Halstead, if you have that one, that's listed right here in our description, as well as the study workbook. This is your guide. This is your roadmap that's going to help you dot every I and cross every T as it relates to the competencies and the content that you want to make sure you close the loop on. So when we take a look at our study workbook, you're going to be looking at part 4 and 5 related to concepts that we're talking about today, as well as part 3, because part 3 talks about evaluation, which includes nursing program standards, evaluation strategies, and assessment instruments. Okay, so there are several sections, part 3, 4, and 5 that you want to focus on and help you close your knowledge gap. And then last but not least is our C&E blueprint. Okay, so when you're taking a look at the blueprint, you want to be clear about where your knowledge gaps are today. You're going to take a look at competency 8. That's going to help you close your knowledge gaps and really identify where are you on that roadmap? Where are you related to that blueprint that's going to help you achieve excellence, not only in your classroom, but also achieve that passing score on the exam. So now what we're going to do is transition over into looking at some content from our presentation slides. So we're exploring the topic of how do you make sure that you are digging deep into the reasons why your program outcomes are not being met and what your next steps are going to be. So first and foremost, you want to think about, where are my gaps in my nursing program? Okay, so when you look at your gaps, what you're going to identify is, what is it that students are not connecting the dots about? Is it that they're struggling with quizzes or showing up, being prepared? So if that's one of the gaps that you're having, what you want to consider is spending some time talking to students about what's getting in the way. What are some of those tools that we can use to really help our students get back on track and be more effective and efficient in the classroom? All right, so first we're going to think about our roadmap. So that roadmap, what that's going to look like is, first of all, students are coming to us and they're sharing with us why they're not connecting the dots, what it is that they are missing related to theory, related to clinical practices, that we want to make sure they have closed the loop on before they get to the clinical setting. Okay, so there are 3 important numbers we want you to write down. The first number is 10,000. The second number is 40%. And the third number is 23%. Okay, so we're going to talk about each of these numbers as we talk through our content today. So the first number we want to bring to your attention is 40%. That is based on data that was released by NCSBN. It said that 40% of colleagues have indicated that they are leaving the profession by 2029. That is potentially 1.6 million nurses. That's a lot of nurses. So I want you to take a minute and reflect. What do you think that impact will be in nursing? Okay, not just nursing education, but in nursing, what do you think that impact will look like? And then the second reflection we want you to think about is, what can you do to influence that number? What can we do to decrease that number to retain more of our nurse colleagues, more of our nurse educator colleagues, so that we can best prepare the next generation of nurses and future nursing educators and future nursing leaders as well, right? We know that it's not just about teaching the next generation of nurses, but also about teaching the next generation of nurse educators and our nursing leaders. And then what we're going to do too is we're going to talk about the specific program outcomes and how you make sure that you are properly aligning the teaching strategies with our program outcomes. Ultimately, we know we need our students to be successful on the NCLEX exam. We need to be successful on the NCLEX exam, on the C&E exam. So how do we make sure there's alignment with the way that we're teaching as well as the way our students are learning? Okay, so that's what we're talking about today. So next, what you're going to do is you're going to take out your study workbook and you're going to start to look at part 3, 4, and 5. If you don't have the study workbook, don't stress about it. Okay, you have your study worksheet. And what we want you to do on that study worksheet, now that you've identified your learning objective, we want you to think about, what are those gaps? What are those opportunities? And explore this question: what is the reason that my nursing program isn't thriving? We want you to fix this first, which is focusing on leveraging your resources to meet your program outcomes and to meet your program goals and to boost your outcomes. All right, so you have one number written down already. 23% is our next number. Okay, so based on research that was gathered and collected by Kavanaugh and Sweta in 2017, only 23% of nursing graduates were able to demonstrate basic competencies and felt practice ready. This is aligned with clinical judgment that we want to make sure is taught in our nursing programs, and that requires us to be aligned with those evidence-based practices that are described in Chapter 14 in Billings and Halstead. And 14.1 is our learning theory table. Okay, if you have the 7th edition, I know that table's not there, but you still have the information that is included in Chapter 14. Patient safety, we want to make sure our nursing students are making safe patient care decisions. And we want to make sure our students feel ready, feel prepared for the workforce at the end of their graduation. Monagle in 2024 determined that new graduate nurses had a strong deficit when it comes to clinical reasoning and judgment, and it unfortunately continues to decline. We want to make sure that we are using prompts, those Socratic questions, to help develop clinical judgment. Billings in 2024 determined that that was a key contributing factor to our students, our nursing students and our nurses making safe patient care decisions. As we dig into Hallmark of Excellence number 6, that's exactly what it is about, which is identifying these resources to help us achieve our program goals, to help our students achieve success. So the first thing you want to fix is making sure you have the resources. Let's take a look at our thought-provoking question. You're going to see in the STEM a statement. And then the second part you're going to see is a question. Okay, so in this STEM, it has a scenario. So you are a new nurse educator serving on the curriculum committee. During a program evaluation, the faculty discover that students lack consistent access to updated clinical simulation resources, which is negatively impacting their ability to meet course outcomes in complex care. The department is under budget constraints and administrators are hesitant to approve new purchases without strong justification. So here's the question. All right, that's the statement, that's the scenario. What is the most appropriate action to take to support program goals? So we have A, using personal funds to temporarily purchase needed resources for students until budget increases are approved. We have B, lead needs assessment and present data that links student outcomes to gaps in current simulation resources. And then we have C, recommend eliminating simulation-based learning activities from the curriculum until funding is available. All right, our next number is 10,000. 10,000 hours is what the data show that Malcolm Gladwell collected and reported in his book Outliers, that it takes 10,000 hours. Okay, I want you to think about that. 10,000 hours of deliberate practice to master a skill. So if we don't get it right the first time or the second time, we spend a lot of time developing poll everywhere questions or unfolding case studies or using Kahoot, Jeopardy game, right? We have lots of innovative teaching strategies we're using, but we may not get it quite right the first time or the second time, or maybe even the third time. So what you want to consider is the fact that it takes 10,000 hours, right, to master a skill. That's what the research says. So give yourself a little bit of grace as you're thinking about how we're going to better engage our students in the learning experience. That's what you want to consider. Just having more iterations of practice to help us really alleviate some of that anxiety, some of those fears associated with starting a new teaching strategy. And give yourself a pat on the back for even trying something new, right? That can be a challenge in itself because we can get comfortable very easily in engaging in strategies that we've always used. We look at the hallmark of excellence number 6 that is really mapped to 4 different competencies and sub-competency statements. So number 1, looking at how do we apply clinical expertise? How do we draw in those evidence-based practices that we know we have used in making our decisions and help students start adopting and adapting those practices? And even the mindset, yes, we want students to make those safe patient care decisions, but what are their thoughts? What kind of falls into their decision-making processes as they are mentally preparing for making the decisions about the care that they're going to deliver? And then the next mapping element is facilitation of learning in the healthcare environment. How do we socialize the learning experiences and really promote the importance of learning being iterative, where we're giving students feedback that's going to shape their decisions going forward? And then last, us being able to function effectively in the institutional environment, going back to the mission and goals and understanding how it aligns with our curriculum and our program outcomes. Hallmark 6-1 talks about the importance of partnership. How do we partner with other institutions, sometimes it's just our colleague mentoring us to help us better understand how to write a grant proposal, how to secure funding for the research work that we want to do. Taking a look at technology, how are we using technology in our classroom to support learning outcomes and faculty development? So we don't want to just create fun and exciting games just because it's fun, right? We have to map it to a learning objective, to an outcome that we want students to be able to achieve. How do we keep our students? Recruitment is one part. So what's that criteria? What are the supportive resources that we provide to students at this phase of recruitment, retention, and graduation? A good example would be resources to help students with preparing for a TEAS exam that they have to take on admission. Looking at our recruitment team, our enrollment advisors, what resources do they give to students to help them best prepare to be accepted into our program? And are we using holistic criteria when we're looking at the admission process with our students? Financial services, what support do our faculty have as far as attending conferences to help them stay current with those evidence-based practices and resources to help them become a better nurse educator? All right, so it's time for the thought-provoking question answers. So if you chose B, you are correct. Leading a needs assessment and presenting that data, we want to look at the quantitative component of why we need to integrate more resources, simulation resources into our program. This is going to create a data-informed decision-making process, which we know is essential and aligned with Hallmark 6. And also, again, chapter 27 is going to help you dig a little bit deeper to make sure you close your knowledge gaps. One of the biggest challenges in nursing education is having the right resources to support not only student success, but also faculty development. If we look at Hallmark 6 and we're aligning it with chapter 27 and the blueprint, the exam blueprint, you will be well prepared to score well on the exam and to be a better nurse educator in your classroom. Thank you all so much for joining, and we look forward to seeing you in our next snapshot.